Right, welcome back. It's Geographically Challenged episode number 61, the first one that we've done in a while online. And we've pulled all of the boys in today. TeaTime was a much requested addition by one person after the last time he was on. So we've decided to bring him on. He's come out with his cock, ready to go, ready to rock, do whatever he needs to do.
Mongolz. He really showed up for his fans, bro. He really
That's right.
For his fans. Hell yeah,
man. And the way I wanted to start this episode was we're all international travelers now. We're all excited about that because obviously TeaTime and I have been in Mongolia. I went to China right after Mongolia as well. Just got back a couple of days ago. Pilski's been in China as well for Valorant, but you know, you were still there. And Bleh's been, was it in Dubai or Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi for Yalla.
Abu Dhabi. Yeah, there you go. So international traveling and stuff like that. So it's all been fun.
In Asia, though. In Asia, which is great.
That's the point of this show, though, Geographically Challenged, and it's all starting to happen, isn't it? So that's pretty cool. How's everyone doing? I mean, I don't need to hear from you, TeaTime, because I saw you like a week ago. But Pilski, Bleh, what's up? Haven't seen you guys in a while.
I'm good, man. I got some kind of Chinese cough, and it's been present for many weeks now. So I might be the start of the next super spreader. COVID did start after the last time I was in Shanghai as well. So yeah, let's see where that goes. And I look forward to seeing you guys in person soon. And make sure to give you a big kiss.
Yep, loving it.
Yeah, I've been reading about this bird flu thing that's going around now. So good luck.
Oh God.
It's been fine for me, and I think Abu Dhabi was the last event I did like the last month, and surprisingly, yeah, fun time. Been a while since I've done any event in the region, right? Usually it's like a TO comes in to do an event, it's kind of a shit show, and then they never come back again. So it's nice to see an event which, yeah, sure had its issues and whatnot, but I did manage to witness personally Mongolz actually win.
I thought
S tier events doing this one, right?
Didn't have issues.
Sorry,
I thought S tier events didn't have that many issues.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yes. Solid were doing the production while Yalla, they were poor Klaus, but this bunch of these ex Elisa boys from Finland, they were basically running the rest of everything else. So yeah, got a tan, have a cold. That's great.
So yeah, you're all sick except for me and TeaTime, who came back from Mongolia just like Giga Chads, ready to go. Well, we should touch on it. Obviously, I think the big talk of the town at the moment is the Mongolz. It's kind of the talk of the town every episode at this point in time. I don't know the last time we did one that wasn't talking about the Mongolz in some way, shape, or form, but this is now almost, I guess, the best time to kind of be harping on about it, right? Because we've been talking about them for a couple of years in the lead up to all of these results, and it feels like now that bandwagon has really kind of hit the international discussion. And I know that they were like a team that people were excited about when they were playing in like all these events over the last couple of years. But really now, the fact that they won the MESA Nomadic Masters spring and then went on to win Yalla Compass back to back has kind of turned some attention in their direction. So I guess I don't know where we want to start with this one. TeaTime, obviously, you haven't had much to say just yet, so maybe you want to start here because I know that you're rock hard and ready to go to talk about the Mongolz in every way, shape, and form. So maybe you can just say what you want to say, and we'll bounce off of that because I'm sure you've got a lot to say on this topic.
Listen, everything is expected. I don't think there was any doubt about any of these results so far, right? The fact that they're going to win an S tier event, they're going to go ahead and win John Kuping now as well. It's going to be 3 in a row, 3 weekends, 3 trophies. Top 10 HLTV, predicted it all already. And yeah, what can I say? I knew it all before it happened. But on a serious note, I didn't think they'd beat Astralis, to be honest. And I think that's an incredibly big victory. The Yalla Compass event is, it's cool. It's a lot of prize money. It's very interesting. And it's fantastic to see them win a tier 1-ish tournament. But frankly, the one best of 3 series that they won over there was Astralis. And the reason why I was really happy about the event overall was because Astralis is the exact kind of team I didn't think they would beat, actually. Right? It's a great opera on the other side. It's some good calling. It's some great structure. It's a national team, so you don't have like the cohesion advantage over them either. So I think more than anything else, celebrating the fact that they beat Astralis in a significant playoff match is a really big testament to where Mongolz are, rather than just, hey, they won a 400K event, because that's really cool. That's really insane. But frankly, there was one significant best of 3 match that they won in that entire tournament.
So we're basically not considering the win over NIP all that fantastic, all that exciting?
Who gives a fuck?
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, look, I actually wanted to sort of touch on what you said there quickly about ESL Challenger Jönköping, because I guess, yeah, like, are they the favorites now going into Jönköping? I'm just having a look at the list. It's Falcons, Complexity, Ents, Alliance, Aurora, Party Astronauts, MIBR, and Mongolz. And as far as I'm concerned, I think if they can beat that Astralis, like you say, if they can beat that Astralis on LAN, then they can win this Jönköping event as well. And also, how often are the HLTV rankings updated? Is it every 2 weeks or is it every month?
Every Monday.
Every week.
Every Monday.
Every Monday, every week. So, okay, so you've got another 2 weeks for them to be potentially updated into the top 10 after this. So this Jönköping event finishes on the 16th.
Monday.
No, it's just a week away, John. Not even a week, 5 days away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This Monday is when we will find out whether they get into top 10 or not. Basically, they need to outplace Complexity in this event. If they outplace Complexity, then they're guaranteed top 10. If VP crash and burn out of Blast London and anything, then they're also probably going to be top 10 as long as they don't come last place. Those are sort of the two conditions that I think they have of becoming top 10, because the point difference between them and like Complexity and VP is literally like 5 points each for every team.
Righto, there we go. So I think that's definitely doable. I definitely feel as though it's doable. Look, I just want to have a question here for the TikTok short, for the clip, you know. The question I want to ask you guys now, because we did have this discussion like a couple of months ago, and it is one of those recurring discussions that we have like every couple of weeks, I feel like. And we I think last time when we talked about this on this show, we kind of came to the conclusion that Mongolz hadn't quite done enough to be considered the #1 Asia team of all time in the modern era. I mean, do we even include We Made Fox back in the day? Maybe that's something that you can touch on, Bleh, but I haven't really got anything to say for those guys at least. But are we at the point now where the Mongolz have, with these 2 wins, done enough to be considered the best Asian CS team of all time?
Of all time, no, absolutely not. Fuck no, not even fucking close. You got to see some of the tournaments that we made. We're talking about deep runs. I'm talking about, you know, when Evan made a tweet saying how We Made Fox, you know, the last time an Asian team won a big event was the WEM event, right? They were beating SK Gaming. That was the best team of that year, pretty much. Actually, it was Forest, Get Right, you know, DSN, not DSN. It was Robon was there. I mean, I'm talking about the best team in the world. They're beating these guys. It's like the equivalent of Mongolz beating someone like a FaZe, right? In a grand finals of a big S tier event. So, and this is something that those guys, We Made Fox, or the various iterations of names they had over the years, they did consistently across like 3 or 4 years. So absolutely not. But if you're talking about the past, since the inception of CSGO to CS2, I can just say this Mongolz team is the best team we've had since then, right? It's not just about, sure, Tyloo had a top 10. They cracked the top 10, I believe, in 2018 in August, post the major in London. But apart from that, it was very fluky. Let's be real, right? Just looking at the eye test, it was like they had some crazy aimers, had some Bentet, for example, X-Grid popping off as well. Kind of gimmicky play styles. The Cobblestone comes to mind when they took down the Brazilians, you know, where they have a very, very unorthodox setup in the CT side, which teams weren't able to figure out in the first couple of days, but they got figured out very quickly. And they didn't really stay on top for very long. If you look at the Mongolz, and if you know anything about Counter-Strike, the way they're playing CS, it's clearly leagues better than anyone and any Asian team has ever done in the past like 13, 14 years. So yeah, achievement-wise, I guess maybe Tyloo peaking the top 10, that's there. But apart from that, Mongolz wins in every single other category. Of all time, no.
Yeah, but I mean, there's even a chance that 5 days after this episode is released, and probably by the time this short is now out, like, they will have made top 10, in which case that even isn't even a tick in the book for Tyloo anymore. Tyloo was 10th, I believe. They were 10th, yes. Right?
Yeah,
so exactly 10th. If Mongolz were to go 9, which, you know, might not be impossible, then they would be even that.
Look, in my books, they're already the best team we've had, you know, in CSGO, CSU. I'm just trying to be very, very specific about Tyloo cracking the top 10 and whatnot. But yeah, Mongolz are already the best, if you ask me.
I'll call it the modern era, right? Like, that's what I said when I tweeted. I think for me, like, the modern era of Counter-Strike would be Global Offensive onwards. And if we're talking modern era, then yeah, I agree. I'm at that point where I've sort of put them over the line as well. Pilski, I remember you were one of the ones that was kind of like on the Tyloo hype train last time. So is this enough for you? I think you've been convinced.
They've done better and better since then, and they've actually won like a few tournaments in a row. And I think beating like a top 10 European team is really good. I think, I mean, Tyloo, the kind of tournaments that they were winning was like not. It was like probably less competitive than the Yalla one, I would say. Like I remember they played at events. Like I was just looking.
The IM Beijing event, I think, was a big one. That was the talking point. Was it Beijing? I'm
yeah.
sure it was.
Did they
took second to IM Beijing?
Shanghai,
Was it
right?
Shanghai?
I think
Whatever. What
Shanghai?
It was Shanghai,
I think
2018.
they were top 2. I think they were in the final against
They were in the final. They lost to
NRG or Gambit.
NRG. I think so.
NRG.
Yeah.
Why can't
But
I
the
see
thing
that
also
on
for the
Wikipedia? Am I
Tyloo team-
tripping out here?
I am Shanghai. I've got the Liquipedia. Yeah, they came second to NRG.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing about the
So-
Tyloo era also was we just didn't have best of threes, right? Like as many of them.
Yeah, and I feel like was that NRG team when they were like the Breeze like top 3 team in the world at the time?
Yes.
Yeah, and they weren't able to beat them, but we beat Astralis. Yeah, I think there's enough to say they're probably better. Like they've won like the European like tournaments. They've won over European opposition. They've won some like good tournaments, but like Yalla's probably a better tournament or as good of a tournament as some of these other ones that we're talking about. So I'm pretty comfortable saying, yeah, that's probably the case. I don't know if that includes OCE or whether we're talking all of Asia, because I'm still waiting for Mongolz to like make a deep run in like, you know, that, I mean, everyone is, it's why everyone says it's like a deep run in the prestige tournament, which is what I was saying as well. But that's something I don't think Tyloo ever really did. Like Tyloo was that team that they would like randomly upset like a really good team, like every now and then, and people would get hype about that. But in terms of like consistent results or like deep placings, yeah, they didn't really put them together very often.
It's also, if you look at the results of that Shanghai event, I mean, they beat VP, which is basically a pale imitation of what it once was, right? I think it had Neo and Yali. 2018. It was Jesus. 2018. It was Mihu, Neo, Pasha, Morels, and Bialy. I mean, that wasn't really a good team. They won in like 2 very close, and then they beat Greyhound, best of 1. They beat Boot Dreamscape as well, very convincingly. That's it. And then against NRG, they got absolutely just curb stomped, 16-9, 16-2. So
that's not a good tournament. That's not
exactly. It looks great, but also remember a lot of teams did have to drop out of the tournament. I think because of scheduling issues or visa stuff or whatnot. So there were a lot of Asian teams which came in. So it was more like a kind of an extreme slant with a VP and an NRG thrown in, if that makes sense. So yeah, sure, they came second, but it wasn't that impressive if you look at the teams they played.
All right, so that's the verdict then. Geographically Challenged approved. The Mongolz are the #1 Asia CS team of the modern Counter-Strike era.
Yeah.
With that little caveat. But maybe they've still got to do more if we want to say best of all time. We'll have to see them when
why
they do
not?
a
lot more for best of all time.
What's that?
Dude, they need to be like, you know, winning, you know, the likes of maybe a Kato or a lot of big IEMs and Blast Ball finals and shit if they want to claim to be the best of all time.
Okay, so
listen, yeah.
Go TeaTime.
Go on.
I mean, to even put up a comparison point, you need to have them be a stable top 3 team in the world, right? Like even if they don't win, let's say even if they're top 3, top 4 without winning any trophies, then you can say, okay, fine, that's a comparison point. Because I wasn't around in the 1.6 era either, right? But from what I understand, there were only so many tournaments that the Korean and once upon a time, like the 2005 Chinese team that was also very good could actually attend. So sure, even if you can get to being like let's say what Cloud9 was before they won the major, right? Which was the 4th or 5th best team in the world, but very stable 4th or 5th best team in the world. Then we could maybe have that conversation with all the caveats of it's a more competitive era of Counter-Strike, this and that. But the idea that we're sort of theoretically counting down the days to them breaking into the top 10 of Counter-Strike, while, you know, we made Fox. I mean, it's even more than who they beat, right? But it's the fact that I looked over towards the tournament. That tournament had like Navi in it. That tournament had the great Finnish team with Natu and Nasu and all of those guys in it. That tournament had like EG with Lurpus. It had genuinely, again, I don't know because I wasn't around in that era, but from what I could see, that was a tournament that they won with 8 teams in it, which had like 8 out of the top 11 teams in the world there. That's a very different situation. That's like going straight into a Cologne playoffs and winning that from scratch as a team that's just traveled there, probably isn't getting that much practice time either because that's how things used to be back in the day. And you've just gone into it, raw dogged it, and won it out. That's pretty insane.
But hey, I tell you what, at least those guys are having some success anyway, regardless of if it's in CS or in Valorant? Because was it Solo that won the Valorant Masters?
Solo
in
is the
China?
coach of Gen G, and pretty much all of those 1.6 era Korean players are coaches of some Valorant team. I was even queuing bloody Hong Kong servers and playing like low radiant like lobbies, and fucking DRX Termy was in my game saying, okay guys, we can win fighting, and I fucking look up the cunt's age, this 38-year-old man's out fragging me. So like
how does that feel, Pilski?
I don't know. He sounded Korean to me, and then one of my teammates was saying it's someone aliases at him, like a Chinese pro player changes his alias to DRX Termy, but I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just racist.
Who knows?
Maybe you are. We're all racist deep down inside, as it is. Oh, but it's kind of cool that Solo won the Valorant Championship on the same day, the very same day, a few hours before the Mongols won the first big event for Asian CS in fucking 15 years or 14 years. Kind of cool. Which was won by Solo, by the way, as well. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, Valorant's a different beast because Asia's like much more competitive there, but even in Valorant, like yesterday, there's a few signs of interesting things. Like yesterday, the Taiwan Hong Kong team, which is like full Taiwan team that plays with like Chinese mixes and stuff, that won their regional tournament, they lost to a Mongolian team in Valorant, and not even like the best Mongolian team that plays under the Mongolz brand. So they're coming for everything, bro.
They are. They're coming to dominate
for everyone.
All right, here's the real racism check. Well. This is the real racism check for you guys, okay? Mongolz number 6 on the Valve ranking. What do we think of that? They're number 11 on HLTV, and this is what really, I think, spurred all of that discussion, because people were like, it's not a fucking S-tier tournament. They shouldn't be number 6, this and that. And okay, look, let's just get into the nitty-gritty, right? Because we want to taste a bit of that drama. We want people to watch. So we've got to touch on the spicy topics. Does Mongolz deserve number 6 on the Valve ranking, or is that unreasonable?
No, but they could be close to that. The way that I always look at it, like a lot of people think, like put it down to points and results and stuff, which is the logical way of doing it. But I always do like, I don't know, I just watch CS, I look at the rankings, and I think, is there 16s better than Mongolz? Yeah, I think there is. Like even the top 6 that I'm looking on HLTV, like Mao's Vitality, FaZe, G2, Spirit, Na'Vi. Then you got Astralis, which they just beat. Like once we get past like Na'Vi, for me, I think like these are all beatable teams for Mongolz, right? Like Astralis, Heroic, VP, Complexity, Liquid, Eternal Fire.
Na'Vi is beatable for Mongolz?
You don't think? I think Na'Vi's not beatable for Mongolz.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Oh, I think that they could, like, don't get me wrong, I think they could beat Spirit or like Na'Vi or something like that, or like G2.
They've beaten G2 as well.
Yeah, I think they could beat them for sure. But like, do I think they're like, do I look at them and I think confidently they are better than this team, or they could definitely beat this team? Like if I saw them play Heroic, I'd be like, they could definitely beat that team. VP, I don't know, maybe I'm a VP fanboy and I like VP, plus the new like superstar team is pretty cool. Complexity, I'm like, yeah, they could beat Complexity. They could beat Liquid. Like I'm pretty confident they could beat a lot of those teams. So I think they're definitely not number 6. But then they're somewhere between 6 and 10 for sure for me. Like I think they're definitely right where they should be, and the rest of the placements is always like the bottom end of the top 10. It depends what era of Counter-Strike you're talking about, but even like up to like top 3 at times in CS, I've been like anywhere from 3 to 15. Who the fuck knows? Sometimes there's been eras of CS like that where the placements are not always as straightforward as they are. So the fact that they're even in that discussion as a top 10 team in the world is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's fucking awesome. Is like we're in a position now where we can realistically say, like, no cap, even though 2 of us are wearing caps, that we have a reasonable discussion to have an Asia team inside the top 10, and not just like just inside the top 10, although they may just be inside the top 10 when that ranking updates after Jönköping. If they even get there, like what happens if they just bomb out of Jönköping and they stay 11th? Well, we'll look a bit silly, but obviously, we're at that point, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, Pili, where like you're sort of saying, okay, well, the top 4 or 5 teams, like they'll be odds on to win a game against the Mongolz, but everyone else, it's kind of like either a 50-50 or Mongolz maybe even favored, which is just... This is surely the best it's ever really felt like for people watching from the Asia region with the assumption that their team's going to be competitive on the international stage. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I don't think that they're number 6. I think they could be. Like, again, this is kind of the thing where you're like, I think they could be. I don't think they've got the results right now to back that up. And this is kind of the thing that we were saying when we were in that previous episode, saying they're not the best team, the best Asia CS team at the moment. And Tyloo is. And it was like, of the modern era, again, if we're going to keep going with that caveat, it was like, well, they're very much on track to do it. There's no doubt about it. And like, if we really take it in isolation, probably they are. But they just haven't got the results to definitely lock it in and say, yes, this, and this, back this up. So, you know, the way things are going right now for the Mongolz, I mean, and this is probably where you come in, TeaTime, like, by the end of the month, easily inside the top 10 is where we would think that they should be. And, you know, that seems like a realistic ranking as well, because I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think is actually a realistic ranking for them? If 6 is maybe a little bit too far at the moment, what is the realistic ranking? Because I saw your tweet, TeaTime, where you said you think maybe 9th was something where they should slot in, right?
Look, personally, for me, the way I think about it is top 6 is, it's similar to what Billy is saying, but in a slightly different framing. Top 6 is where if I look at a team and they don't make playoffs of Cologne, which is 6 teams going out over there, then they should be disappointed in their performance, right? Even if they come 7 to 8, they should be disappointed in their performance. Because for me, Cologne is one of the most robust formats that we have. It's obviously got all the best teams. Katowice is obviously similar, right? I don't look at Mongolz and I say, oh, if they come top 8 at Cologne, I'm going to be really disappointed. I will be as a fan, sure, but I don't necessarily think if they make the playoff stage, if they make the arena, that's exceeding expectation only slightly. That's sort of how I'm framing it in my head. I think 9th is a stable place. Personally, I actually think that the Navi ranking is pretty overinflated. I think Astralis is probably the 6th best team in the world, and I do not think they're better than Astralis, even if they did beat Astralis. In the same way, I don't think they're better than G2, even if they did beat G2, for the simple reason that if you put up all the top 10 teams in front of them, Astralis and G2 will probably get more wins across the rest of the 9 than Mongolz will. That's sort of how I judge the rankings wise in my head. So by comparison, sure, head-to-head wise, it's really cool, and it is sort of leaning into what we've been having in CS anyway, right? Which is that the bottom end of the top 10 teams can actually challenge anywhere up to the top 2 normally is how it sort of works. And right now, personally, I think they can even challenge more than that. So if you combine the fact that Counter-Strike's gotten so much stronger, that bottom top 10 teams can actually beat these higher tier teams right now, as well as the fact that, hey, Mongolz is a legitimate like 9th best, maybe 8th best at most they're 8th, right? That's cool. That's awesome. That's fantastic to see. That's literally the best we've ever had for Asian Counter-Strike. And it does actually remind me of a tweet Bleh made, funnily enough, a while back. God, it must have been like a year and a bit now, which was that he said that I feel like Blitz is the fallen of Asia. And this is exactly what I feel like back when I was watching the Brazilian teams have their come up, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are doing it. Who the fuck are these? Because that's also like a year after I properly started watching Counter-Strike. So I'm getting like a very similar vibe to that, especially, and sorry if I'm getting ahead of myself, when you think about the way the schedule is going to work for the rest of the year, we're going to have Mongolz be at every single S tier tournament because of their placing right now. And add to the fact that we're going to have all of these teams from Europe and NA coming to China and boot camping in China for a month because of how the RMRs will work. The Mongolz are going to have an excellent practice environment for the rest of the year right now. If there was ever a place where we're going to see an Asian team ramp up into top 5 theoretically, this year would be it. And I'm not saying I'm not making that like wild call just yet, but we're shaped out for that. It's really cool to see.
Okay, so that is where I wanted to go. I'll throw the question in again just so I can clip it and put it in a short. How good can the Mongolz get over the next 6 months? Because we obviously know where they're sitting right now is a great place to be, but where actually do we think that they can reach in terms of a ranking? If they're 11 now, what's the goal? What's the realistic goal at the moment? Is top 5 actually going to be doable? TeaTime, your phone turned off. You've got to turn your phone back on.
It's still on for me. That's strange.
That's all right.
I
can actually see his input, but like
yeah, I can see it as well.
Yeah, went out the
I'll
frame.
try and refresh it.
To tie into what you're asking, Jordan, and also something that TeaTime said is I actually think it's even more insane than what the Brazilians did. Well, obviously not in terms of results, but the fact that they're doing so well. It's just the fact that like these guys have no pedigree to be this good. Like these guys are like we're saying like the Brazilian guys were nobodies at the time. It's just like they had people who had some degree of pedigree in 1.6 coming in to go like a little bit later and starting to be active. Yeah, FNX Fallen. Like, who the fuck are any of Mongolz? And especially the new guys, like picking 910 and Mizuno and Senzu. Like, these guys are not anyone with any pedigree. So this is actually, especially for Asia, because even the Chinese guys had some degree of like, mixing with 1.6 players in early go and some degree of, mentorship. And then they were around in early go playing in mixed teams and going to tournaments before they became actually successful. There were those established cores of Chinese teams. These Mongolian guys don't even have that. They're literally picking up random cunts who I said like 100% this cunt is not going to be able to do good enough. This team is not going to be able to be good enough. They don't have players with established names. They have a couple of guys who are sick, who can play well in Asia, but that does not make a good enough team to become a top 10 team in the world. And that's what I said, because it's fucking unprecedented, guys. Like, the fact that they're making this work, I don't know what you think about it, Blair, but like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this, to be honest.
I would agree with you there, because I think I've been following the Asian scene for quite a while, but even at 1.6, even going back to early go when I was for ECL Open, I think that was the only league running at the time, right? Like 2013, 2014, thereabouts. Never saw a Mongolian player. I have no idea about any Mongolian player who ever made it even reasonably big in the region, where you're like, there's this one guy who can talk about, right? There's no one there. It's usually Southeast Asian guys or Chinese. We even had players from Hong Kong who I knew before I knew about any Mongolian players, in all honesty. So I really don't know where they came from. But yeah, kudos to the land culture, I guess. That's something that Mara harped on quite often, as to how they've been able to groom a lot of fresh talent. And I think the comparison with the Brazilians, I think, is very apt as well, right? Again, even though they did have a few people there, they took a while to ramp up, right? It took a lot of time to ramp up. They didn't have too many resources, so it's a very fairy tale like thing. And again, if you're going to continue with that narrative about the comparison between Fallen and Blitz and how the Mongols are kind of lighting the fire in the region, I was also making a comparison with how Na'Vi back in 2010, when it was Markelov, Edward, Zeus, Starks, and Senya, when they came onto the scene, no one knew about anything from Ukraine. There was no esports in Ukraine, forget just CS. And after that, we had Na'Vi become a powerful organization. They won the TI, the first one as well. And then, of course, after that, we know what happened. The story of Ukraine with esports, right? In general, Counter-Strike in particular with Simple and all these freaks of nature coming out of woodwork over there. So maybe this is that story, right? You just need one team to inspire not just a country. I also love the fact that the Mongols are kind of carrying the flag for Asia. They themselves have said it. They're like, this is for Asian CS. Also, just kind of having a trickle down effect towards some of the teams in China. Lynn Vision comes to mind, so who they're pretty close with, or for that matter, the other Mongolian teams and Atox and whatnot. So yeah, the future looks great. I've never thought it would ever get to this point this early in CS2. I thought it'll take a few years, but yeah, Mongols kind of leading the charge. But to answer your question, Jordan, where they might, where they could realistically be at the end of the year, or where they can aim for when it comes to ranking, I would say I agree with everything you guys have said. Right, I think they can beat. I think they're easily better than Heroic right now. I think obviously they can beat Astralis and even VP for that matter. But I would still side with Astralis and VP because they've done more with the core of these lineups in the recent past than Mongols have. I think 8th to 9th in just general rankings, doesn't matter if it's Valve or ESL or HLTV, I think that is a realistic place to be. And I think that's fucking fantastic. Top 5 only if they're able to really make a fucking deep run in a couple of big events, which they haven't done yet. And hopefully that changes as the year progresses. I'm looking at the ESL rankings as well. Top 12 right now for ESL. So invites are going to be coming in, right? They're going to be playing way more events. Hopefully some of the IEMs at the end of the year as well. Cologne, they're going to be playing. I'm not sure about Rio. Maybe there as well. So a lot of opportunities for them to, well, basically prove us right.
I mean, yeah. I think they will as well. Like, these guys are ice cold. The pressure does not fucking get to them. Like, no,
the pressure does get to them. I will disagree with you on that. The pressure does fucking get to them, but I feel like we've seen this happen, right? Like, it feels like they seem to take one event at a time to get to the next level, right? Because, for example, if you look at the major, when they made it to the top 16, they fucking choked. They didn't play anywhere close to the way they played the previous time, a previous stage, and they lost a lot of best of ones, teams they shouldn't be losing to, some of the Brazilians as well. And you clearly know they're the better team on paper against these teams, but mentally they were a little weak. I spoke to one of their social media guy. I had a nice chat with them, and he said like sometimes they get the occasion get to them. You don't see it, on their faces because they are very stoic people overall, but like it does get to them. But I feel like once they started winning events, right, it kind of solidifies this belief they have in themselves, saying, dude, we can fucking beat Astralis. And Astralis, the team is taking on teams like FaZe and all these guys. We fucking destroyed them in the final 2 maps after that opening game. So, I think, they won 1 map and then the final one was a closed one. But they're able to close it up. That's something they used to struggle with, right? When it comes to overtime, allowing teams to come back into the game. They're actually starting to close things out, which is, I think, a great sign overall. Against NIP in the finals, I was starting to get nervous out of the first map. Map 2 and 3 completely curb stomped them. So I feel like, yes, they had some weak mentality initially, but it is getting better over time. And it's about getting to the playoffs of a S-tier event. I think once they get there, they will again struggle. They will choke there. But the next one, I expect them to do better. You know what I mean? It's step at a time.
Yeah, I mean, they're continuing to surprise. They're continuing to impress. I was kind of on that same train of thought as you, Pilski, where it's like, I don't know that I necessarily expect them to do as much as they have done, just based on like when you look at it on paper. But obviously, they're continuing to do it, and I feel like the sky's the limit. Like I'm looking at the Counter-Strike that they're playing. They're looking really, really solid. They're looking great. And I'm hoping that, we're going to see something special at the Shanghai Major. I'm not expecting them to win it. I'm not expecting them to go, absolutely bananas. But, like, if they would win the Shanghai Major at this point, I'd be like, okay, like...
I mean...
That's not as wild as it was 6 months ago, you know what I mean? Like
every time we see an Asia OCE team overseas at an event, my expectation is they will choke.
They get fucked, yeah. They will get fucked and go last. Yeah,
Mongolz are like giving me the reach around right now. Like I actually think they could do something.
Yep. What I will say before we finish the topic on the Mongolz and start touching on a couple of the other happenings is, what I really appreciate is that they're not shit cunts. Okay, like they're actually really good representatives for the region. They're nice guys. Like we obviously, when we were in Mongolia, and we can talk about this when we talk about the MESA Nomadic Masters, we went and had like a barbecue thing with the Mongolz that was run by the Mongolz put it on for all the people, invited some of the international teams and obviously the talent and stuff. We were like up on the side of a mountain and we were talking to some of the Mongolz guys, and they're all good guys. Like they're young kids, to be fair. I keep having to like check myself and go like, okay, Techno's like 20 or 21 or something. Blitz is 22, Mazzino's like 15. And like, I'm talking to them and I'm like, you're not a shit cunt. Like you're like a nice guy. So you're a great representative for the region. The Mongolz as an org seems to be a great representative for the region. People like to get behind them, are excited about them. I think it's because there's this like level of anonymity. I will say some of the tweets are starting to get a little bit too edgy for me. I'll say, but
some of the tweets are fire. My favorite ones are the ones where the English is just not quite right. Like it's just slightly off. Like fine. That's my favorite one.
You know what? You know what? I fucking love it. I fucking love the social media handle. Jordan, I get it. It's a little bit, when they had like 6 or 7 tweets waiting in the draft section when they beat NIP or Astralis. Actually, I was like, all right, these guys just building the fucking ammunition.
No, I respect that. I think okay for me, it's like when they're getting into an argument with Launders and stuff. I'm a bit like, come on, guys, like you don't need to be. He's trying to help. He's one of us.
He's a racist.
Yeah, exactly. I can't say that as a white guy, but you can, so it's all good.
No, I take you as one, Jordan. It's all good. You're racist as well. Yeah. I would say this,
mate.
And listen, the chances of Cadian watching this is minuscule at best, like infinitesimally small. But if Casper, you're watching this, this happens to me at every event that I see the Mongolz at. Right, the RMRs, not RMRs, sorry, in Yalla. I saw them, I believe, in Sydney as well, quite a few times over the years, especially in the past 1 year. And every time they do well, I'll see Techno, I'll see Blitz, and I'll be like, "Hey, Techno!" It's like, "Yo,
thank you, man.
Good job, man."
Thank you, man. That's how they say
it. No, I'm thinking, it just walks off, right? Yeah. It's like they just English isn't a language they're very comfortable with. You can clearly see in the interviews as well. Same with Blitz as well. He looks at me like like in a very serious. He doesn't have any emotions. We know that. Doesn't even react when he's winning games. I'm like, "Good job, dude." He's like.
Yeah,
Mara's the only one. I'm like, I just look at Mara. I'm like, and Mara's like,
yeah, Mara cracks a good smile every now and then, doesn't he?
Mara cracks a great smile. So But I find it fucking hilarious on Kato last year where, Caden's like, "You fucking noobs," and he gets on a desk with me and he's like, "Yeah, every time I say good morning to them, at breakfast, they don't reply back. They don't even say hello. So fuck them." I'm like, dude, that's just the way they are. They're just shy people. They're not assholes.
I think they're coming out their shells a little bit. At least they seem to. A
little bit, yeah.
I had a pretty good chat with Techno at that barbecue. But anyway, we'll touch on that now, I guess, because we got to talk about MESA Nomadic Masters. Like, moving on from the Mongols, like, specifically, I think, it's prudent for us to talk about the actual event that happened in Asia as well. Obviously, TeaTime and I were both there. So, for me, like, speaking to the event itself, rather than the results, rather than the teams, because I think it is important that we get some local events. And actually, this event was really quite good as far as I was concerned. I'll get your thoughts on it as well, TeaTime, but from what I saw and from how it ran, I have to say, good fucking job to MESA. In comparison to the Asia RMR, which was an absolute shit show, as we know, this event ran really well. There was, from what I saw, no major complaints from anyone. I think what you have to remember when we're talking about this is, contextually, you kind of know what you're getting into when you're coming to an event like this. It's not going to be like 100% perfect. It's not an ESL event. We're not going to a 5-star fucking hotel. We're not going to have perfect practice rooms. We're not going to have, it's not going to be perfect. Okay. But contextually, with regard to what the expectations were versus what they delivered, I actually think they did a great job. The only downside I would say was we had to share rooms as talent. Apart from that, everything else. Everything else was perfect. It was me and TeaTime.
Again.
Okay.
We got.
Wait. Can we rate each other as roomies?
Actually, I'll say TeaTime was pretty good. TeaTime was pretty good. I've had definitely worse roommates for sure. He didn't snore. He wasn't loud. Biggest gripe I had was he flooded the bathroom every time we had a shower for the first few days. But then they fixed our shower drain, so it wasn't a problem anymore.
So it wasn't his fault.
Well,
exactly. No. Let's see. Okay. Quick defense that I have to play. Oh,
can't you? Hello?
I can hear him.
Oh, shit. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk regardless in that case. No, but like my defense is that the bathrooms would get drained every time he showered regardless. So Jordan and I just had the agreement that I would shower first so he can sleep for longer. So.
Oh, now he's cut out for me as well.
Yeah.
It's much better than me at chess. Oh,
it's back
for me as well.
Oh, you're back.
You dropped out and came back. It's all good.
I still can't hear him.
Sorry, janky setup, like I said.
Yeah,
but listen, I will say, Jordan's much better at me. Jordan's much better than me at chess, except for when he's actually playing. But when he's behind my shoulders, he's just such a bastard. Like, what are you doing? Are you fucking stupid? Oh my God, you're the dumbest cunt alive. What's going on over here? Why are you moving your queen over there? And then he plays me, and he's just as fucking bad. So yeah, Jordan, fuck your backseat chessing. That's all I'm going to say.
It's much easier to backseat chess than it is to actually play it. But yeah, what did you think about the event just generally? Obviously, I had a lot of positives to say. There were some negatives, like sharing the room situation. Obviously not ideal as talent, especially when you're traveling internationally. No one really wants that. The days were very, very, very long. Probably could have done with a better runner show or an extra set of talent or maybe less games on a day. I don't know that there's really a solution there though, because again, expectations have to be that this is a budget that, doesn't really facilitate that, at least for now. But what did you think? Just generally, give us your thoughts.
That was great. That was fantastic. I thought the fact that, because here's the thing, I'm of the firm opinion that we don't matter as long as we're not dying or getting sick, right? Like if we're not getting sick, we're fine. So yes, schedule was definitely a little bit rough because I didn't feel like we could necessarily always do our best work. But at the end of the day, I thought that wasn't the biggest deal. The only major issue for the event was that prac rooms weren't existent. And I know that you said that this isn't necessarily the biggest of deals, and I agree with you on that one, Jordan. But also, I don't want the European teams to have shit excuses for when they lose to the Asians. And that's the only issue that I had in the event overall. Otherwise, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed the event. I thought there weren't really any technical issues either. At most, it's like a half-hour tech delay, which sounds like a lot when you compare it to ESL and everything. But a half-hour tech delay is fantastic. That is nothing for Asian events.
Yeah, for sure. Look, at the end of the day, I think for me, I have to be pretty happy with how things ended up playing out there. So I don't really have any complaints. I thought it was really good. Even if we touch on like the results and stuff like that, like the Asian teams themselves did a pretty good job across the board. Like we talk about, Lynn Vision did pretty well, Atox did pretty well. The fact that all of the Asian teams, was it all the Asian teams? Did even Chinggis Warriors make it to the stage?
Chinggis Warrior also had
They had a win over OG, I think it was.
I think they made it to the stage, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Was all the Asian teams were on stage? Yeah, they were, which is like pretty crazy to me. I didn't think that would be the case, but it definitely was. So overall, yeah, very, very happy. So I thought it was a good event. I thought the Asia teams played well. They did a good job of sort of representing themselves and kind of justifying why an event should be there. Definitely there was, I think, some learnings for MESA, but by and large, it's an event that if it came back again, I wouldn't be disappointed by that. Like, people, I think if this event would have gone poorly, people would have looked at the RMR and gone, okay, well, they fucked the RMR, they fucked this event, fuck this. But, this is why I was talking about at that post RMR episode, I was saying, like, I really hope that they do a good job of this because, like, sorry, in the post RMR episode, I was like, people should, like, fucking hold their horses a little bit here because, like, this is the TO that we actually want in the region, and surely they learn from what happened here and do better next time, and they did. So, pretty happy.
Yeah.
See if we get it back again, hopefully. I heard some whispers that maybe there's going to be another edition of Nomadic Masters, so I think that would be cool.
I think that's
happens.
good.
Yeah.
It's also the quality of teams, right? Like, having teams like Bleed, I think really made the event look just better overall, right? And the grand finals is really good as well. That best of five, really making Mongolz sweat. I don't think Mongolz have actually sweated this much. They didn't have to sweat this much even in Yalla, right? And just want to add on as well for Yalla, even though it seems a little bit further away because it's happening in Abu Dhabi, even though it's technically in Asia and all of that, I do believe they have at least a couple more events lined up for later this year or next year, if I'm not mistaken. They're trying to do this entire making the Middle East a hub, so to speak, for events. And I know, Blast are doing it. Obviously we have the Esports World Cup and everything happening over there, by ESL and whatnot. But apart from that, I think it's a pretty good event overall if they're able to maybe get a couple more Asian teams. They obviously want to get as really good teams, which is why they only had the Mongols coming in there. But if they're able to get maybe 2 or 3 more teams from Asia who deserve a spot right there, right? And you're able to get a higher caliber of like maybe 3 or 4 top 10 teams like they did this time. I think that's also a pretty interesting event overall. Easy to travel to for a lot of Asians, I believe. And the event was pretty good from my perspective. Maybe, sure, a lot of technical issues here and there from the PCs. That could be something they could fix, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. If you take a few months, and production obviously was a little lackluster, but can obviously be easily fixed. Overall, I think the players had a good time. Hotels are nice. Usually, hospitality is pretty nice over there in the Middle East. So yeah, it's good to see these smaller events, especially from our part of the world, doing well. And considering how things are shaping up to be for next year, I think it's a great sign for fucking everybody.
Yeah, I sort of agree. Like, I mean, I wasn't really able to watch too much of it because, to be honest, I was in China and I was on my mobile data and stuff like that. But from what I did watch, it looked pretty good, looked pretty solid. And, I'm probably biased in the sense that, like, I want to see more stuff in this region. I want to see more Tier 2 stuff. But I think, back to back, these 2 events, like, they looked fantastic, right? MESA Nomadic Masters, Yalla Compass, more of them, please.
Also, you got to understand something. Like, when you talk about these events being good, it's not just for the teams or the viewers, but also for the entire ecosystem, for people like us, for talent, for production, and everyone working in the region, because Asia has kind of died out, or Valorant coming in COVID years and all of that. But if you look at Extreme Slants took place, we have the Perfect World guys over there, the major happening as well. And especially it's perfectly aligning with the rise of the Mongols and the Mongolian scene, so to speak. And if that can create a perfect storm of Asia being the next region, so to speak, right? Obviously South America's there, EU is always going to be there, but if Asia can be another place where a lot of teams can come over, it can be a regular stopover for a lot of top 15, top 20 teams. It's really good. It's really good for everyone involved. So good signs. Things looking good. Not so challenged anymore, Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna have to change the name to Geographically Superior, but okay. How about this? If an Asian team ever wins the major, we do a special episode and it's called Geographically Superior, because then we will be the best region in the world.
I agree.
I'm going to cut in very quickly.
Sorry, Brian,
Gambit
but
did do it.
I just find it funny that even in Jordan's dreams, he can't think of an Australian team winning the MESA.
Well, I would count that. I would count.
Well,
okay. When I say Asia, in the context of Counter-Strike, I do mean inclusive of ANZ because we play through the Asia minor anyway. It's the same thing to me. But yes, that's that. If an Aussie team wins, we'll do that as well. Although, yeah, I think there's more chance that the Mongolz is going to do it than FlyQuest at the moment. Let's just say that. But ESL Challenger League playoffs. Pilski, you were casting that, right? You did the playoffs for that. Lynn Vision won against Atox in the final, 3-2. Went to a BO5, full 5 maps.
No one. I'm assuming no one watched this, but like, let me fill you guys in.
I didn't watch it, so yeah, fill me in.
I didn't watch it.
This was a fucking shit show, boys. Holy fuck! I want.
And
like,
we're
Mac
back all the way down again.
Like, it was actually abysmal. Like, Lynn Vision could have got knocked out by Tyloo playing with Cammy. I'm not even kidding. Like, if Tyloo did not throw really, really, really hard, like harder than I've seen a team throw in long time, Lynn Vision should not have even made EPL. And Lynn Vision, they lost to Atox as well. Atox slapped them. And then in the final, after almost choking to Tyloo, Lynn Vision beat Atox, and Atox kind of choked in the final. Lynn Vision is looking like an absolute mess. I have very little faith that they're going to do anything at Pro League, and I've heard we'll talk about that in a sec, but what I will say is Lynn Vision looks like a mess. Tyloo is playing with Coach Stand-In, who is playing better than Advent ever played in his entire career, and I don't know why he wasn't in the team this whole time. To the point where like HLTV commenters are starting to make me suspicious about people saying that someone's playing on his account. He was actually that good. He was
can't outfront Mercury in that.
Yes, Mercury is washed. I don't know what happened to Mercury. Mercury is washed right now. It's crazy. But and Jam Young's a little washed. I don't know what's going on with Jam Young as well. But I will say, I will say, Starry is fucking insane. Mosey is fucking insane. There's a few Chinese players that are really fucking good right now. And like, if they put a good team together, that could be really interesting. And what I will say, just, because I love the sound of my own voice and I see that it's not in the topics here, but ECL Australia did happen, Jordan, as well. Sure. I don't know if you remember about this little region called Australia. And I saw that it was left out of the notes this time. That's interesting.
It was, yeah. I did mean ECL play. I did write ECL playoffs. I just forgot to put in the Australia result, but I did mean to talk about it just for those wondering.
You know what? Mind Freak beat Bad News Kangaroos and they slapped them. So Mind Freak's on the come up. And I got to say, bro, some of those players are like the first time I've seen some Aussie players on the come up in a lower tier team and be like, oh shit, okay, like we actually might have some new boys in town.
Who are you talking about?
Slimy was really good. Payne was really good. Tux was IGLing, I think, and he was decent. And there was one other guy.
What
was that? Super was good. Yeah, and Gump was really good as well. Super was actually like just decent, but like. All of them were actually pretty good, and I actually think they might be better than B&K right now. B&K were not great, really not great since PZ's left the team. And Rooster beat FlyQuest in the upper bracket. Yeah,
is that a Nomadic special? Was just a Nomadic special, or
that? No, honestly not. But the thing is, what I will say as a caveat to that is that Rooster, they played over a best of 5-1 map advantage, which why the fuck are we playing best of 5s to decide a seeding match for ECL and I have to cast it? Like, please.
So wait, hang on, let me just clarify. The issue you have is not that it's a best of 5. The issue is that you have to cast it.
It's best of 5 for a seeding in Pro League, bro.
I do know.
And you know what?
That is cuffed.
You know what? In OS, the difference between first and second.
Like actually.
Yeah, he's getting there.
What was that?
The prize money is the gap.
Isn't there like
the
a lot of prize money?
No, bro, the prize money, the prize money in OS was $1,000. The prize money in Asia was like $8,000 for some reason. But anyway, what I will say about Rooster beating Greyhound is that, or FlyQuest, is that they had a couple of maps that they played really well, and they did beat them on 3 maps. But every map that FlyQuest beat them on, they fucking like destroyed them.
Yeah.
So Rooster is good enough when they actually show up to the game and when they get on a comfortable map. to beat FlyQuest, and I rate FlyQuest is in pretty good form. So I kind of got my fingers crossed that the Aussie teams are looking better heading into ECL bar Mongolz, whereas the Asian teams that I saw in the ECL playoffs, despite the fact that they did well at MESA, I mean, maybe it's just the online stuff, but they look like a fucking mess, bro.
I actually wanted to sort of swing this in this direction. Actually, the reason we sort of touch on ECL here is that I wanted to sort of have a quick touch on Lynn Vision and Atox, because obviously we saw them in the Nomadic Masters, and like I said, they did kind of okay. I wasn't expecting anything out of Lynn Vision at Nomadic Masters. I kind of had them as like, well, aside from Chinggis Warriors, we did this power ranking before, and we all had Chinggis Warriors as number 8. Obviously, who the fuck's Chinggis Warriors? Seems reasonable. 7th, we all had Lynn Vision, and I definitely thought Lynn Vision was not going to be a good team at that event, but they did manage to make it onto the stage. They won at least a couple of games that were okay, but yeah, I sort of wanted to sort of break this down because
Gaming Gladiators on LAN, which was a rank 30 team at the time, and Gaming Gladiators is also a pretty respectable team in Europe, right? Like, let's not underrate the win that they got, because I actually think it's a very significant one, as well as the Atox beating out OG, Chinggis beating out OG, right? Like, these wins are pretty significant because it says that these teams that aren't Mongols, these teams that aren't even necessarily top 2 in the region, they can beat, like, let's say up to rank 35 teams in Europe. That's a pretty good standing to have on LAN.
Yeah, I think Atox did really well. I don't know how they played in ESL Challenger League, Pilski.
Messy. Some really good games. What I will say is Annihilation is really good.
This is the thing. This is what I actually wanted to bring up, because he played really well at MESA Nomadic Masters. So if Annihilation's good and you've got Dobu playing well, I think you've kind of got the pieces of the puzzle in that team to be quite competitive if things are going right. And yeah, maybe it's not always going to go right, but I actually thought they looked pretty good at Nomadic Masters. Obviously, they played pretty decent at the last Asia RMR. They make top 2 in the ESL Challenge League, and it's probably a little disappointing to me that they weren't actually able to beat Lynn Vision, which is maybe a dying team at this point. But I am kind of getting some positive signs from this Atox roster, which is kind of where I wanted to go with that discussion. But then on the flip side of that coin, and this is where we can sort of pull in the Tyloo discussion as well, the Tyloo rumors, because Tyloo's making all of these roster changes, obviously that's affecting Lynn Vision, and Lynn Vision is playing who knows fucking what, with what information. Do they know? Do they not know? And I think, there's that excuse there as to why maybe it's not looking so good for Lynn Vision at the moment, which is a little bit sad, because like Lynn Vision has been for the last 12, 18, maybe even 24 months, like the best Chinese team, depending on who you ask. And now it seems like they're kind of falling apart, right? Like Tyloo's made the roster changes, and the Tyloo changes being as of like 7 hours ago or something like that, when that tweet was put out, which, will be a couple days now by the time the video's out. G's in the roster. That's confirmed. So it's Jamyoung, Mercury, Mosey, G, ZDR currently listed as the roster. However, again, to reiterate, the rumor that we're hearing is Starry is also going to Tyloo. So if that is the case, then that team kind of fucks, by the way. But Lynn Vision is then kind of cooked, because like they're already not looking good. They're going through all these roster changes. Where are they going to go? So
Murray was shitting on them though in ECL. He was playing like he did not want Tyloo to go to Pro League. He was like 1.4, like 1.5 rating. Like,
so he wasn't running at them. That's a good sign. He has integrity, man of integrity, right? It's a great pickup right there. Look, for Lynn Vision, I've always felt like, they seem to have the pieces, but just watching them play, apart from, they just reminded me of old Tyloo. Go in, get a couple of surprise wins here and there, not really consistent enough to really make the runs that, the Mongols are making for that matter, right? So if this lineup leads to the, kind of the death of Lynn Vision, I'm okay with it. You get Starry. Unfortunately, there's no Opera in China right now. You get G coming in. I think he's reasonably okay. If Jamyoung can make it work as a caller, working with Cammy together, and Mosey is still fucking great, and Mercury wakes the fuck up, dude, that team can fuck.
It's the time.
They can fuck hard.
I mean, there's a majors coming up, and you know what? With Cammy in the team, I used to look at that Tyloo team and think like, oh man, Advent's calling some really cool strats. Bro, Cammy was in the team. He was on the hard entry, and they were throwing some of the most organized executes I've seen them do in fucking ECL, bro.
This is what I
like he would literally full set plays, and the other team's like, what the fuck? This is a a dead team. He's literally throwing 4 flashes at me. I'm running into 3 volleys. Like, what the fuck's going on? Cammy's double entering my team. He's a coach.
This is what I was saying. Like, I don't know if you remember when we did the episode in Mongolia, TeaTime. I was like, actually, this Tyloo roster, even though they're playing with a coach sub stand-in situation, they're actually playing better Counter-Strike than what the old Tyloo roster was playing. So it's kind of good to hear you say the same thing as well, Pilly, because you know, it's kind of that to me. What that says is someone new is in-game leading. I'm assuming that it's not Cammy. I'm assuming it's Jamyang. Why would you make... Because the whole rumor is Jamyang's going to be the IGL for the Tyloo going forward. Why would Cammy be IGLing at this point? I'm assuming it's Jamyang. If they're playing this style and they're looking good with Jamyang in-game leading, at the very least, what that tells me is Jamyang's kind of fucking bringing some kind of new system or style or whatever it may be into this Tyloo roster that was missing prior. And if it's looking good with fucking Cammy and ZDR, how is it going to look with G and Starry in the roster? Like...
Here's the thing.
Am I on the hopium right now? Like, am I, you know, fucking hoofing some hopium or what?
I don't think that's how you hoof
do that again, Jordan. Do that again.
I appreciate that. Yeah, please, Jordan, one more time for the viewers. Number one, I actually don't know if necessarily Jamyang being a better IGL is going to be something that we can really test until 6 months from now. I think we saw this with Westmoreland as well, that when Westmoreland switched over being the Lynn Vision IGL, he was like a really good IGL for like 8 months or something, and then afterwards things started going downhill. I don't think it matters though, right? Really, 6 months is all we need from Tyloo going into the Shanghai Major. We want them to be relevant. We want Asian CS to have like this nice lineup together. And to build on what Bleh was saying, here's what the death of Lynn Vision offers you. Westmoreland could end up in Rare Adam. Right, like you could have potentially 1 or 2 of these really good Lynn Vision players go back towards Rare Adam, reunite with X-Pro. Rare Adam's out there bootcamping Europe. These guys are getting pretty good, and also more than getting pretty good, you're finding out which one of these guys simply can't hang, right? So we could potentially end up with like 2 good Chinese teams again, which would be incredible. We haven't had that in a very long time. Obviously, going back towards like the Tyloo, Rare Adam / Vici days is sort of what we were looking back to. So if that could actually happen, then absolutely let Lynn Vision die. Let us have another one of these 2 great Chinese teams come out of the region. If we can have that, you know, sort of conglomeration of talent into these lineups, that'd be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think both of those teams needed to die, like probably a longer while ago than they actually did.
Well, here we are. I mean, I guess this is like the new frontier, Asian CS. It's kind of, I feel like now finally gotten to the point where we more or less have lost all of the old guard of the previous generation. If we're talking, you know, the Advent, Summer, Attacker, you know, the Korean
Captain
players,
Mo.
Obviously, Mo, like all those guys, all the old like Machine Gun, Zilkenberg, like all those players. Like maybe some of them are still kicking around. Like obviously Zilkenberg and Chinggis Warriors, bit of a fucking renaissance for him on the old LAN. Had like a 30 bomb game on Mirage. Did you just say your mum?
One map.
I said
he had one good game, that's all.
I thought you said your mum. I was like, why would you say your mum? Like in the middle of my point, you've just dropped your mum.
Your mum's a bit of a veteran. She's been around.
You can't. Anyway.
Mom's a wonderful lady, Jordan. Wonderful lady.
Yeah, why have you done that? Anyway, no, I mean, he had one good map, but fucking whatever, you know? Like, he's 50 years old. Like, just let him have his time, bro.
She's good for a best of 1, but she's not good for a best of 3.
Probably. Oh, my God. Yeah, but okay, just to be serious for a second, my point was that, like, all the older generation of players has kind of moved on, more or less, and now the new players are coming through and actually starting to kind of form teams, be in control of teams as well. So the new era of Asian CS is, I think, like, let's be real, like, kind of beginning. It's been a slow burn. Like, you could probably say it has been starting in like 23 onwards. And now we're sort of halfway through 2024. But yeah, I think it's definitely upon us. So it'd be pretty cool.
Summer and somebody are still in Rare Adam. Do you by players that can't hang in Rare Adam TeaTime? Do you mean like Summer and somebody, or do you mean the new guys?
I think Summer and somebody might be like have an attitude issue, but I actually don't like Child King. I don't think Child King's very good right now. I haven't really watched how much. I'll be honest, I haven't watched too many of these matches going into Europe because I've been casting so much these past 2 weeks. I'm going to go through them, but you know, just overarchingly, I think that there's easily 2 players that you can kick out for like
I don't know, like a Zacher and a Westmelon. I take Zacher on a rifle and Westmelon on a rifle any day over any of these players, to be honest. I think they're both very good. So you make that lineup. I think it's going to be fantastic. Now, it's difficult to get that done because I do know Chinese scene is weird about buyouts and everything, right? So you never know if that's actually going to come through. But if it does, that's really exciting. And even if it doesn't, even if we have like Westmelon trying to usher forward like 2 new Chinese players and everything, Lynn Vision is going to end up being like the 6th best team, 7th best team in Asia with legitimate LAN experience, with legitimate veterans. This is how Mongolia has had its pathway of talent established too, right? Like you look over towards, like, for example, Chinggis Warriors. News was playing back in like 2018 Extremesland, right? News is now on that team. Zilkenberg's obviously a little bit more famous. He's on that team. You look over towards what, you know, Dobo and Cabal are doing over in Atox. There's a reason why we have this fantastic, like, nurturing of talent in Mongolia, and if we can have that in China, even if it's because of like, you know, screwed up buyout situations, that's still a very good sign for things going into the next year. My only problem is that for Asian CS, that I think partner systems very specifically screw us more than anyone else, in fact, because, you know, you look over towards places like North America and whatnot, your top 2 teams in Liquid and Complexity are actually just given invites to places like EPL, which are massive ranking point inflation. So your teams after that, then 2 teams qualifying out from Challenger League, you don't have to play against Liquid or Complexity. Basically, like fucking anyone in the region can go through. So if Asia can get to a point where we can actually have legitimate conversations about slot allocations to the region once a partner system is down, when we can actually have like direct head-to-head comparisons. And I know we don't want to get into this, but it's just quick rushing onto it. This is one of the reasons why I've been like tweeting like a fucking shit show over there about like NA versus Asia, because I genuinely think for resource distribution and slot allocation in future tournaments when the partner system is breaking down, that's a conversation that needs to be had, because Asia is getting really good at this point, right? Like, the idea that we have 2 teams. I mean, Atox has not had an international LAN, right? Like, put it that way, outside of the Asian region. They go into a LAN, they beat out some really good European teams, very frankly. They did pretty well against Bleed as well. You have Chinggis Warriors, literal randoms. I know the players, but like as a team, literal randoms, they go out and they get themselves an upset win over there as well, right? Like, you know, we are genuinely at a point where, unfortunately, because Mongolz are just so much better, because probably Atox, and, you know, you're going to have 2 or 3 teams which are so much better. Everyone's going to say, okay, everyone below those 3 teams sucks. But very frankly, we're not going to get an MAT. We're not going to get, like, you know, a Nouns going out and having a run, because we don't have partner systems working in our favor. And even when the partner system stops, we don't have the legacy of 3 years of Liquid and Complexity having their ranking, and Easy once upon a time having their rankings inflated by being at every fucking big tournament. So this is a genuine conversation that needs to happen when we start talking about Asia. Not just that Asia is good, but is Asia better than other regions? Is it justified to maybe change slot allocations, tweak things? What is the system moving forward? That's I think that's going to be eventually a really important thing to sort of think about.
Difficulty is, like, whenever you're talking about this, it's kind of like, well, yeah, we want to get more for the Asia region, but that will come at a cost for another region. That's going to be the problem. People are always going to come out to bat for their team. That's exactly what the problem was with your tweet, TeaTime. You're a fucking... You like to stir the pot a little bit, which I respect, but also all the NA boys, all the NA fanboys, and fair enough to them. You know, we would do the exact same thing for Asia.
Yeah.
They're going to come out and say, well, that's not fair because we're kind of good too. And, you know, maybe NA is kind of on the rise as well. I don't know. I don't know enough about NA to really make a comment there. But if someone was coming out and talking shit about Asia, I'm going to go and say, well, actually, they're pretty good. But if we win, you lose, that's where the problem's going to arise. You got
to look at the orgs as well, right? Yeah, and you got to look at the potential fan bases a lot of these orgs have, and despite the fact that sure, some of them might not be fielding great rosters or whatnot, but just the name value, the fan base, and everything is something that a lot of these TOs are going to really take into consideration. And unfortunately for Asia, apart from the Mongols, who, if you think about it, you know, they have more of an international fan base because they're just a fun team to watch. But if you look at your Atoxes and everyone else, it's really hard for them to be like, okay, who are we really reaching out to, right? And sure, you can say the Chinese market is massive, but we don't have any real data. It's very closed off. We have no idea.
How big was the Mongolz fan base before this team started to play well? Like genuinely, how many people actually cared about the Mongols before these guys?
Don't get me wrong. It's fucking great. It's for sure. It's, you know, they earned it themselves, right? For sure. And they had to grind it out a long way. But apart from that, for the rest of them, like unless they do it, if Atox is able to, get their own particular fan base, for example, it's going to rely purely on results. And as long as the results aren't there, I don't see the TOs really inviting them. But that's going to happen next year.
To sort of counter back, I think we've moved away from fan base invites in general anyway, other than for tournaments like, Yalla comes into play. And I don't want to say that Yalla is insignificant, don't get me wrong, but, in the grand scheme of the Counter-Strike circuit, it isn't necessarily the most consistent recurring event in that regards, right? So we have moved away from fan base invites. We have started to saying, you know what, we want skill-based invites to come through. And I agree that absolutely. And by the way, even on the fan base point, who cares about nouns? Right, like who cares about boss or party astronauts, right? Like there's 500 players, 500 people who play on ESEA who care about these teams, maybe like their mums and dads as well. So let's say 1,500 people give a shit about these guys. No one cares about these teams, right? People started caring about M80 a little bit more as well. They have like an actual organization. They put in money and everything. We don't necessarily, I'm not saying take out your complexities and your liquids. I'm saying let us have a conversation where, is it genuinely possible that, let's say, an Atox is better than the third and fourth best North American teams? Like, let's say, an Chinggis Warriors is better than these, because we don't know. It's similar to what Pakistan had in Deccan, and this is why. Now, it's not even that I'm an Asian fanboy only. It's genuinely, I've seen this happen for Pakistan and Deccan, where Arsalan Ash go out. Arsalan Ash goes and becomes like the best player in the world, and all the time he's saying, "Oh, actually, you guys don't even know. There's like 10 other people back home who are like just as good as me." And then no one's believing him. Everyone's saying, "Oh, you're just saying that because you're from Pakistan." When those players came out, we now have like 5 of the top 12 players in the world or something like that are Pakistani, right? Can you imagine Pakistani players assigned to NIP, to Falcons, these things? I don't want that to be a situation where in Asia, and look, CS is much more developed, obviously CS is much bigger, but I don't want there to be a situation where Asia is precluded just because we work under the assumption that NA is better, or that for that matter, South America is better, or for that matter, the bottom, 14 to 18 teams in Europe are better, because the 14 to 18 teams in Europe are teams like the Game and Gladiators. Right, we don't necessarily know who's better from these regions, because what happens is if you have a new Asian team going forward, fairly so, don't get me wrong, I think this is very fair, they are seeded the worst in a tournament. Right, so when Atox is going to go to EPL, they're going to be the bottom seed of the tournament. That means you're going to have to go up against your Spirits of the world, your G2s of the world, your Phases of the world. You're not actually getting to see a comparison of the middle. You're never going to be able to see like, hey, what happens if you airdrop, let's say, Chinggis Warriors into an ESL Challenger tournament, which is also considered an 8-tier tournament with 8 teams and much more doable field. Right, these are the circumstances which actually decide who should get more slots. Right now, slots are decided on legacy that was 6 years ago. Right, 2018, 2019 is how we decided that NA should have like maybe 4 or 5 slots. Maybe South America gets about as many as well. These are inefficient slot distribution systems. These are inefficient resource distribution systems. We are not getting the best teams for CS over there. And again, the argument for all major organizers is we've left behind fan bases, right? And maybe this is more ESL, right? Because they make it all about the ranking. If you're saying it's all ranking based, you are saying fan bases are not a factor. Even if they are a factor, who gives a fuck about nouns and party astronauts? Sure. Me, by the way, I do actually quite like their players, but general public.
Yeah, it's
along with the mums and dads.
Along with the mums and dads. Honestly, it's something I think about a lot, not because of Counter-Strike, but because of Valorant. Even going over to boot camp recently, and they have a franchise system, and playing some of the teams that are franchise teams, and then playing some of the first, second, third best teams from certain Asian countries, and playing them on the same maps, and thinking, holy fuck, this franchise team is terrible. And maybe the second best team in Thailand are fucking insane, but it doesn't matter unless they win. They come first in their little regional thing, and then they win one tournament which has a lot of random factors, a lot of teams who've never played each other, all these different conditions. It doesn't matter. They'll never be tier 1. They'll never get invited. They'll never get to sit at the table. So it's not as much of a problem in CS, but it's something that I've thought about a lot lately in a different game, and I think it's definitely an interesting discussion to open up and think
people
about.
People don't care until they do care, and I think the perfect representation of this, and this is where I wanted to tie it back into that talk about the is the fan base there for these kind of teams and orgs. Can you guys guess for me? So How many followers do you think Mongolz had this time last year, 1 year ago, 12 months ago, before things started to pop off for them? Let's be real.
3,000.
On what? On
Twitter.
Twitter.
On Twitter.
3,000.
Not even. They had 1,700. So you guys have got to split down the middle. Pretty good. Yeah. So 1,700 people gave a shit about the Mongols globally on Twitter. Again, but as soon as they played at the Copenhagen Major this year, they went up to 4,000 before the Major. Pretty good growth. They went from 4,500 before the Major to 16,000 after the Major. All it takes is one good result, one team to start pushing the issue for the region, and people start to care. Now they're up to 22,000. So in 12 months, they've gone from being people didn't give a shit about the Mongols 12 months ago. We did, but generally speaking, the global Counter-Strike community didn't give a shit about the Mongols. Now, though, they're definitely on that fucking radar. So all it takes is one team to do that, and that's exactly tying into what you're talking about with South America, Fallen, etc. Yeah, we're at that
mainstream, and I don't know if I care anymore. Do you
know about the tweet?
If they're too cool, you're too cool for them. Yeah, whatever, man.
No, Jordan, do you know which tweet it was which gave them the massive fucking?
No, I don't. No.
It was the one when they I think it's when they qualified for the main stage or something. It's when the elimination stage or whatever it's called now. I keep getting confused. It's when they were calling out Cadian, saying who's the fucking noobs now. And everyone that tweet hit like 20K. And everyone's like, holy shit, this guy's they're fucking shit talking. The social media manager, I want to give a shout out to him. I think he's done a lot in really.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, it's not just the results of the team. Like the social media did level up as well. Yeah. But this is what I'm saying though. Like why couldn't an Atox do that as well? You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, these guys don't exist. They don't matter right now. But like, why not?
Jordan,
if, for example, Atox started playing well, could they not have a good social media presence too? Like this just comes hand in hand.
Good. Jordan, here's the thing. We're talking so much about the Mongolian teams. Do you know how many followers Lynn Vision has on Weibo? Lynn Vision is a baby organization.
Oh, fucking oath.
You know how many they have? They have 190,000 followers on Weibo.
Yeah, I'm not surprised in the slightest. Yeah.
Right? Like that's easy public numbers. That's not like bullshit live streams. That's just followers. 190K followers is 190K followers. That's not particularly falsifiable, in my opinion. You look over towards if back towards when Boot Dreamscape was a thing, you look over towards when Lucid Dream was a thing. These guys had like 10, 11,000, 15,000 Facebook likes. That was obviously the preferred platform. I really do think that we are at a stage where not just a global audience on Twitter, but these local audiences will rise for their own organizations once they see them going forward. Because I've done a lot of case studies on this one, different companies that I consult with, that people only give a shit about domestic CS if domestic CS is going up against someone else that's better. Right? That's the only place where people actually become fans. Chinggis Warriors, even in Mongolia, no one really cared, like other than the people who knew the players, but as an organization, no one really cared about Chinggis Warriors either. Everyone was disappointed over there that the Huns didn't make it, because the Huns was like, oh my god, it's Score, it's 9, it's these guys who used to be a part of the Mongols before, right? And I was disappointed about that as well. These situations, again, the difference in what Billy's saying is, Billy, franchise leagues are obviously partnerships that are based on monetarily and economically propping up the scene and whatnot. We have, again, CS has said, fuck your organizations. This is the very clear message from Valve when they are taking away the partner system. Fuck your organizations. We want a better circuit. We want more competition. We want the best teams to come. And if we are operating on that principle, then we cannot use archaic ranking systems and archaic slot distribution systems. That is sort of how I circle back to on everything put together.
Yep. Yeah, I think people also, like, I think it's a really good point that you make about the localized, like, social media platforms. And I think that's one thing that, obviously, we being from the quote-unquote Western sphere of esports, being on Twitter. No, you know what I'm saying, though? Like, you're on Twitter, you're talking English, okay? You're not on the fucking Facebook groups, you're not in the fucking Instagrams, whatever. Mongolia is Instagram and Facebook, okay? Southeast Asia is Facebook. Like, Thailand, Vietnam, like, all these countries. I was in fucking Vietnam casting Crossfire last year, and I was talking to some guys who also cast Counter-Strike, and they're like, yeah, we get like hundreds of thousands of people watching our like Vietnamese broadcasts of ESL Pro League. I'm like, why don't they fucking play? And he's like, well, because there's nothing really to play for. It's not that there's no one in Vietnam playing CS. It's just that they Same problem as what we have in ANZ. Like, they don't care about domestic Counter-Strike. They only care about the international Counter-Strike. But people in the West...
But they like Counter-Strike.
No, for sure. But people in the West will forget that all of these other regions, they'll look at Atox and go, oh, they've only got like 1,000 followers on Twitter or whatever. But they don't realize that they might have, and I don't know if this is the case for Atox, but it's probably a bad example, but 10,000 followers on Insta or 50,000 followers on Insta, or in the case of Lynn Vision, nearly 200,000 on Weibo or whatever. They just go, oh, these guys are nobody. But like, they're actually not nobody to the people that care about them. So that's one thing. But look, we've got 10 minutes to go. So I just want to say, anyone has anything left to say, now's the time.
I just want to wrap it up for the entire the viewership thing, right? I believe the Mongolian stream for this event, for the Yalla,
peaked, right?
I think it peaked at, I believe, 30,000 or something, right? There's just the Mongolian people watching them play, and this isn't a fucking major, right? It's not an IM, whatever, big IM Kato or Cologne or whatnot. A population of 3 million. 3 fucking million. That's a population of my neighborhood right here in Bangalore, by the way, not the city. Just this locality. And they had like 30,000 people watching live is insane. You look at the people showing up for MESA as well. I heard the local one, the MESA Pro Series Finals, actually had more of a turnout on land there in the arena than the one which happened after that, than the Nomadic Masters, for example. So definitely the country loves Counter-Strike, right? And obviously now that they have a team which they can really root for and watch for, we're really getting to see those numbers. I'm sure that's the case for a lot of places in Asia as well. A lot of people know Counter-Strike. They've played Counter-Strike. They want to play Counter-Strike, right? So yeah, hopefully things will change. I think 2025 is going to be a very interesting year. It's going to be the Wild West, obviously. It's going to be a lot of events happening. It's going to be fun. It is going to be chaotic, but I also feel like, for regions like us in particular, it is a fucking great thing that Valve has done. So yeah, fingers crossed and hope for the best. For the very first time, I think all of us, myself included, we're feeling pretty optimistic about things. So yeah.
Yeah, the MESA stream for ECL had like, I think 5 to 7K watching Atox play, and the main ESL TV stream had like 2K.
For ECL, that's huge.
ECL, like 5 to 7K watching Atox. Mongolz wasn't even in the tournament.
Yep.
There we go.
More people watching their local feeds than the English feed, which is fair enough. Like, it's not an English-speaking region, I guess. Makes sense.
I do want to, before we wrap up, I know we don't have much time. Also, I think I've forgotten to mention one player I really believe deserves his flowers. 910 and Mazinia, those two guys. I think 910 is someone I criticized personally in the beginning of this year, saying, I don't know about him, right? The team's great, they're fantastic, but I don't feel like he's been much of an upgrade over Annihilation. Dude, like the past 1 month, he's been fucking insane. I don't think he missed barely a single shot with the AWP, right? It was insane. He made Devices bitch in that finals. That's already not finals, the semifinals. Completely wrecked him. Didn't miss anything. He was a difference maker, especially in the final map as well. Standard performance. And from Mazinho, someone who kind of has a bitch role, right? The A anchor, trying to play the lurk role in something for someone so very young. It was being thrown off the deep end, and it took a while for him to really come into his own. But now that it's come into his own and feels more comfortable and more confident, dude, his mechanical ability in a team which has Techno 4K, Senzu, and fucking Blitz. There are times I'm looking at Mazinho, I'm like, this guy, this fucking kid might be just the most nastiest rifler in the server right now. That is saying something. So I feel like Mazinho and Nighton have really elevated themselves, and I think that's the reason why Mongolz are right now. People are fucking arguing for them being top 10 team. So shout out to those two kids.
Yes. Any closing thoughts from you, TeaTime? Even here?
Listen, I apologize beforehand for all of the audio issues that I had across the entire episode, but I promise we will be back stronger, just like the Chinese scene will be, just like all of Asia has been across all of these years. I'm so glad that we can genuinely have a conversation about the fact that, we might be better than some of these other regions. We might be better than maybe the bottom of Europe. I know that everyone is sort of having such a visceral reaction, like, oh my God, this isn't possible. He's just an Asian fanboy. This is genuinely a conversation that needs to be had, not just for Asia, but for every single region right now, about how do we look at the resources that are being distributed in terms of slots, in terms of, prize money, in terms of cash cups, into the tournament structure, going into a new world of Counter-Strike of 2025. And listen, Asia is going to be leading the charge in that new world, and I'm so fucking excited for that.
Me too. Anything from you, Pilski?
No, I think I've said more than enough, and I'm keen for next year. So, look, we'll see what happens at EPL. I mean, I'm sure we'll do a little bit more of a preview and talk about it, or do another episode or something. But I have a sneaking suspicion that the OCE teams might do better than the Asian teams out of ECL this time, which I haven't thought for a while. But Mongolz doesn't count. They didn't come through ECL, guys. You know, they played at ECL and then they suspiciously dropped out of ECL, and I was like, that's interesting. They've decided not even to play, so I have a feeling they might be there somehow. Well,
yeah, that's possible. Obviously, exactly, and they wanted to go to the Yalla event anyway, so it makes sense. Anyway, look, I don't know when the next episode's going to be. Probably a couple of weeks. Frequency dies down a little bit when there's not a lot going on, but
play a break.
I'm sure we've got something to talk about in a few weeks' time.
We can talk about Mongolz winning ECL in Yongshiping. Boom.
Yeah, that's true. If they win it, we'll be back, of course, to talk about it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. buymeacoffee.com/Elfishguy if you want to give us money as well. That would be much appreciated. Otherwise, we'll catch you for episode 62. Mwah. Hey guys, just at the end of this video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Jean, who is my first supporter on buymeacoffee.com. If you'd also like to support me financially or any of my content, make sure to check out the link. It is in the description box below.